Village Board to order. Roll call, please.
Trustee Christensen.
Here.
Cunningham. Here. McNally.
Here.
Reinig.
Here.
Kumbier.
Here.
Strauss. Hollenbeck.
Here. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, proof of posting.
The agenda was posted in the upper and lower levels of the Amundsen Community Center, the Cambridge Post Office, the Hometown Bank, now not Community Bank anymore, and the village website.
All right, good, great, thank you. Public appearances. Anybody have anything they want to talk about? You guys just here to observe? Okay, all right. Then let's move on to the approval for the consent agenda, which includes the village board minutes from February 26th meeting.
Make a motion to approve the village board minutes from February 26, 2019.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? Any clarifications or anything anyone saw?
That looked great.
All righty. I've got a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Abstain.
Thank you, Kathy. All right, let's move on to the reports. The joint law enforcement meeting, which occurred right before this one. Okay, who wants to give us that report?
Not really much to report. The squad car is not in our possession yet. We're still waiting on it. It's what we're supposed to get it January sometime, and now we're in March. So the officers were here and they gave us a briefing on it. They're frustrated, but there's a new process. The person that did do their vehicle allocations has retired. They were there for 35 years, and now a new person is in, and it's that transition from pad and paper to computer. So it's going to be efficient down the road, but right now it's proving to be a little problematic in getting us our new squad. So that was pretty much the gist of it. There was quite a bit of Oakland talk about signage and whatnot, or excuse me, Deerfield, but not really much for Cambridge.
And then a little bit on reports. We're getting an additional report, and we'd like to see a one page per village, and we're getting 4 or 5 pages now. So we'd like to have a discussion with their supervisor on that.
Just getting a more condensed version of the report?
Yep.
Got
We
it.
do some trend analysis, kind of looking at it. So.
And the new reports are showing what our officers do, and then calls that the county may take for us.
Got
But
it.
it doesn't take into account what our officers may do
For the county.
for the county if there's an accident outside the
Oh,
jurisdiction,
sure.
but we're closest, so they go to it. Or if a car is pulled over here or clocked here, they're not pulled over until they're on 1218. It's booked as it's in Christiana, not
Oh,
a
sure.
village. So
It's a bit skewed in
yeah,
some
some
instances.
issues to work out with their new process.
Some minor items there.
Mhm.
Okay.
But it is a predecessor for possibly down the road saying, well, the data shows that maybe you guys maybe need another deputy.
Oh, sure.
So
Another thing that would be interesting is the times that those calls come in.
yeah.
Is it worth us to have somebody on at 4 in the morning
Mhm.
if there's one call
Yeah, exactly.
over a 3-month period?
Mhm.
Yep.
You know?
Right.
And the last thing, it was how the fire and EMT, they have to have times.
Yep.
And the police, our contracted police force, they don't have those particular times.
A lot of times they're the
Response
first ones there.
Say what?
Response time.
Response time.
Yeah, response time.
So that was brought up in the board as well.
Oh, cool. All right. good.
That's about it.
All right. Village office updates. Administrator, Clerk, Treasurer, Moen.
Have been working with River Architects on the remodel. Bid requests have gone out, so those are due in a couple weeks. I believe the first meeting in April is when it would come before the board, I believe.
Do you know what the bid date opening is?
That's what I was gonna check today and I didn't, but it did go out last week. So those are out. We worked with him. He did come down, go over the plans with us, make a few modifications, talk through a couple things. Have been working with Ellers to set up the public hearing in the TIF review board meeting. That will be the Plan Commission meeting in April that day. Audit, working on the PSC report, gathering all the information the auditors need. Reconciling from 2018, going back and catching up on invoices that needed to be sent out for 2018. So a lot of background work getting ready for the audit. Election prep and the notices has all begun. Further down, we'll talk the Melster site, a lot of background work on that, and we can touch on that more when we get down to that agenda item.
All right, great, thank you. So now we're to the bills. We've got bills before us in the amount of $253,792.42.
Make a motion to approve the bills in that amount.
I'll second.
All right, discussion. Mark?
I noticed that on the front of that, Lisa, you had a recap in Town and Country for $5,144 for that bike study. Can you just explain that, where we got this number from? How far are we into this?
Yep. Back last year, the board approved that we would be the go-between for the financials for the bike committee. Any bills coming in, Town and Country was hired by the bike committee to help them out. So these were 2 invoices from last year from Town and Country, work they had done. We, in doing our reconciling, we have received $7,000 between the distillery and the foundation toward this. So that money was there to cover these 2 invoices. That is all we've been billed so far by Town and Country.
There were 2 other parties that were supposed to be coming in with money. Did they submit their remittance?
Not yet. I know the Vineyards has asked for an invoice, which we will prepare. I don't necessarily like preparing invoices for a donation.
Yeah.
It's a
agree.
donation to us. We should,
No.
in my view, be billing them.
Yeah.
But they want an invoice before they will send the money. So,
And that's the vineyards, and then what about is the winery? Did they do anything
are
yet?
they 2 separate? We haven't received anything else.
Okay. Would it be helpful if I followed up then to see what?
And I don't know if
happening
it's 2 separate or if they were doing it
I was just going to say,
together.
Mark, because you're on that bike trail committee, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
So
this-
I was going to say, if you or someone from the committee wanted to follow up on
Yeah.
that, that would be appropriate.
They have asked that the invoice be sent to Cambridge Development, which is the
Houses.
residential
Yeah.
portion.
Okay. All right, I can call and find out. I thought this was going to be done a while back, but
Okay, anything else, Mark?
nope, that's the only one that I saw.
Okay, anyone else have any other comments on the bills? All right, then I've got a motion and a second to pay the bills. Roll call, please.
Trustee Cunningham,
Yes.
McNally,
Yes.
Reinet,
Yes.
Kumbier,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Hollenbeck.
Yes. All right, motion passes. We'll pay the bills. Unfinished business, there is nothing under unfinished business for today's meeting. So we'll move on to the new business, which is discussion and possible action regarding the Wisconsin DNR notice of noncompliance for 200 East Madison Street. So so this is a letter that, a letter of complaint was received by the DNR, and the result, and the DNR then sent the Village of Cambridge a letter asking us to clean up or asking us about planning for cleaning up the, what is known as the Melster property. And they gave some, a timeline for when they wanted that to occur. I don't know, Lisa, do you want to add on some more to that?
They did, in the letter, had a timeline of March 29th to have a plan to them, removal by June 31st. I did include in the packet, they do want a plan, at least knowing we're starting, we aren't going to have all the specifics within a couple weeks. They will work with us then on the implementation of the plan. Yet it doesn't have to be by June 30th if we are appropriately moving forward on our plan. I have had discussions with DNR. The site has changed some, the floodplains have changed since this occurred. We are looking, they did say we have to look at our ordinances, which we had updated back in 2014 for the floodplains. Our ordinances do say nothing can be buried in floodplains. So we'll have to follow our ordinances for anything that is within the floodplains. We have met with WEDC. A couple years back, we had applied for an idle sites grant for that site. Under that grant program, it has to be idle for 5 years. At the time we applied, it had not been. They thought we could be a good candidate to reapply for that at this point. That could be a grant to cover up to 1/3 of the cost of a
Cleanup.
yeah. So that's something we will pursue. Been doing a lot of research, just trying to find all the background things we have on this. With the turnover that we've had in the office, the files aren't necessarily all complete in one location. So a lot of time pulling things together. I have talked to, my vision at this point is, what are we going to do to move forward? Obviously, we will need some assistance. There's 2 options out there. Town and Country is our engineers. They have said they could help us formulate a plan. MSA is also someone who was very involved in that site as the engineers for Home Again. They also helped us apply for the Idle Sites grant the last time. So they have a lot of knowledge and background on this site as well, and have said they'd be willing to help us move forward on this.
They have a lot of information that if Town and Country comes in, we're going to have to redo, so.
Which one would you feel comfortable with, Lisa?
I agree with Ted that MSA has a lot more insight on,
More history with it?
yeah.
Okay.
And they did the WEDC grant for us, so
Okay.
for them, it would be a matter of just updating and plugging in new numbers. And, yeah, so I think they do a
And
good job.
I remember going back, there was going to be 3 phases at Home Again. They had plans and they had good sketches of how they were going to develop that site. And my feeling is that we should contact those people and bring them in and talk to them. So, and they really wanted to be the contractor that cleaned that site up. So they knew, so they knew what the site was going to be like for putting new infrastructure in, like sewer water and things like that, storm water. They had a plan, so why redo it again? And I would like to know if they're going to be interested in going forward with this.
And down the line, that's going to be a discussion for the board.
Mm-hmm.
It's been discussed, do we want green space, do we want to try to develop it? And in my discussions with the DNR too, what do we need to do?
To
And,
comply.
it's going to determine what the board is looking for the future. But like Ted said, MSA was working and had those plans for future development and ideas of what to do with the floodplain and so forth to be able to develop if that's the way the board.
Kathy was on the board at the time, and our intent was to take the Melster property down and develop it. And at Home Again, we invited them to do it, and we did not, and we made it very clear to the contractor
Yep.
that was cleaning the site up at the time what we were expecting of it. The concrete could stay on site, but it had to be crushed. All other material had to be removed, and clean fill had to be brought in for whatever reason. And the contract was not, we didn't
On
have,
the up and
we
up.
did not have good oversight of the contract. I guess that's the best way to say it.
And we actually did we went to 2 different attorneys, right? And we were told there is nothing,
There was no recourse.
In the documentation, as I was looking for things, I did find a non-disclosure, or that we signed saying, we're signing off on this, it's okay. And
Yeah, because he went bankrupt and there was nothing we could do anyway.
But that was the
Was the
subcontractor.
subcontractor, yep.
There's two people involved, the
Yeah.
contractor
But we
and the
did sign
subcontractor.
Yeah, we
Right.
did, because,
If the subcontractor couldn't perform, get them off the site and bring somebody in that can.
in this,
Okay.
But
big
okay,
discussion.
So,
Let me ask-
so,
I'll stop
hold
there.
on a sec, hold on a sec. So our goal today is not necessarily to revisit the history
No,
of what
that's
happened.
right. I wanna-
It's what are we going to do for moving forward and in that direction.
Yep.
And there's 2 goals that we had for today. One was are we going to direct staff to continue to do research so that at the next meeting, we can start pulling a plan together and create an outline or a framework for what we want that plan to look like. So in essence, the staff working on that plan. And then secondly, if we wanted to engage someone else to assist us with that, then having a motion to decide if we're going to if we would like to bring in MSA or Town and Country to assist us. So Chris?
No, this kind of correlates with the history, but I just want to know, when At Home Again was there a plan for more than one phase?
Yes.
Absolutely,
Okay,
3
all right.
phases.
That's the
And-
only history question I
Yep,
had. I
no,
just
that-
want to
and
know
that's-
what the intention was.
Yep.
and my opinion, I would like to have it cleaned up enough that we can continue development there. She talked about either having a park, and I know we had talked about that when I came in and said, okay, get me caught up on what's going on. And it would be an expensive park.
So my only question is, because I know the floodplain has
Right.
changed.
Right.
So how much land now is developable
And we-
versus how much isn't? And that's something that staff would
MSA
bring
could-
to us
yes.
and MSA could
Right.
assist us with,
Right.
exactly, in defining
Right.
that.
And that, again, goes back to Town and, At Home Again, taking a look at revisiting the site.
And, that's down the line. They do
And their
in
ideas-
developer
and their
agreements,
ideas
I
to-
believe,
for
have
phase
first
2 and
right of
3.
refusal.
Right.
So if we
Yep.
could
And
develop it.
we've gone back to
they'd
them a
be-
couple of times and asked them if they were interested, and I think a year ago or so, and at that point, they weren't interested yet at that point, so.
Because they were developing someplace else in
Right,
another town.
Right,
so-
but we would always, once we get it cleaned up and
Yeah.
ready to go.
And they're not going to be interested
Right.
unless we have it cleaned up.
Right.
Sure.
Once we have it cleaned,
But to
It
me,
will
that
be-
would be where I would want to go with
Yeah.
this, enough that we can develop it.
I would like to put it on the tax rolls instead of putting
Yes.
it in as a park.
Yes, I would
That's
too.
my feeling.
That's exactly what, I just said.
Yep.
I'd rather develop it.
another topic that was broached was this is within the TIF, if some of this may be TIF expenses, TIF eligible expenses.
And is there money for that?
That's above our decent, you know,
So-
that's, we have
Yeah.
to be talking dollars and,
So,
you know,
okay, so that's something that we
Right,
Yeah.
that's
could
another,
research or look into.
Right.
yeah.
Okay, Chris?
To keep with the motion of going with the future, Lisa, you contacted the DNR, and I see this email here. Has there been any other contact after this with Dan? And
Yes,
Okay.
that's, he did check with the floodplain. They directed that we have to follow our ordinances if we hadn't passed the counties.
Okay.
But we did update in 14. He had offered at one point, they had sent some of the results of the sampling. I have asked for the full report
Okay.
so that we have that on file as we move forward. So he's been very open. He has, you know, any questions we have, he's been.
Okay. Mark?
This thing's been going on, and it was interesting to read about it in the papers, and it was covered twice. And I'm hearing numbers that are quite large on this. It could be quite large. Don't know. I'm asking this Board of Trustees, does it make sense for us to put together a special task force just for the for gathering information, for having the meetings, talking to the engineers, and then bringing it back to the board for final action?
I don't know that we have the time to do that, Mark.
We don't
That would
have
be
the
my
time.
only concern, because we, at the end, at the next meeting, we have to vote on, this is what our plan is.
And it has to be,
and everything that would go through a task force would go through Lisa anyway.
Right, so, yeah.
I get it, and
So-
just that there's a lot of different pieces to this, because it's not just the money, it's
But-
not just the
but we-
timing, the
yeah.
But the
selection.
people who should be doing the research is our staff.
That's right.
So,
they've done quite a bit already.
right,
Right.
I
right.
could, on the
Ted?
costs of cleaning the site up, at home again and working with MSA at the time, they had figured it was going to be around $350,000 to clean the site up. So I think that's a good number to work off. If somebody's going to say it's $500,000 or whatever, what are they basing it on?
Inflation.
That's why I want to listen, I'd like to listen to MSA and also talk to them or have staff talk to them.
And that's where Lisa would come in
Yep.
and coordinate all of that.
Right. I guess that's my feeling right now.
So do we want two separate motion, do we need a motion to have staff work with it, or can we just direct you?
No.
Okay,
No,
so
I
Lisa,
just-
you're going to go ahead and continue to work with developing a plan, and we'll bring that forward at the next meeting and work with that. Do we need a motion to engage MSA?
And do we want MSA to be at the next board meeting?
Yeah, if we would engage them
I,
and have a
I think that would
plan,
be a good idea.
you know, a start of a plan. They could be here too.
All right. I'll make a motion to engage MSA for the Melster site cleanup.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on that?
Not on that.
Okay, any other discussion?
I'm just going to follow up with Ted, and I'll say this because it's upsetting. This is going to cost every man, woman, and child in the village of Cambridge for what has been done. And I don't want to go back, but this is going to be a $250 per person expense for every person living in this community.
Well,
Over
we do
over
have-
time.
Well, right, and we do have some reserves, and so this is one of those things that, you know, we'll try and maybe use reserves for some of this. And, I mean, unfortunately, you know, things happened in the past, decisions were made. We can't go back and rectify that, but we just have to move forward and do the best we can with coming into compliance now. And yes, it won't be inexpensive for the village, but it's a consequence of the action that we took.
And I would also hope that we can refrain from pointing fingers at parties that really didn't have anything to do with this. I didn't appreciate reading about that in the paper. I'm not going to go into it now, but we had an article in here, and we've got a valuable village resource that I think got put out there and is being blamed for this.
I have no idea what you're talking
You gotta
about.
read the-
And when you say going forward, you're continuing to talk.
I am,
Oh, well,
because I don't like it that we have folks that
So,
are getting squashed.
Was was it someone on the board that did that?
Yeah.
Or is the paper just reporting,
Well, that's
A
what I read.
fact.
That's what I read in the paper.
and
I
I
didn't-
don't know what you read, Mark, so.
Right
Okay.
now, we wanted to,
Yep.
we need to stay concentrated
Mm.
right now on going forward and getting this place cleaned up.
Yep.
And I
Chris?
think some of the silver lining with this is if we do move forward and we do get it cleaned up, the quicker we can develop on it, and the quicker we can maybe get a return on that,
Yep.
that investment by the constituents, so.
Yep, I agree. Good. Thank you, Chris. All right, any other comments?
You need another motion for anything
No,
tonight?
I've got a motion and a
Right.
second to
Yep.
engage MSA to assist with the cleanup of the Melster property.
Yep.
It's eventually going to be money, so do I want to do a roll call?
We can.
Okay, roll call?
Trustee McNally,
Yes.
Reinig,
Yes.
Kumbir,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Hollenbeck.
Yes. Okay, so the motion carries, and staff will then engage MSA to assist us with that planning for the Melster project.
Because after the next meeting, you're not going to have much time to get, before you have to contact the DNR again. But I think you'll be okay.
Yeah.
And I think we probably, going to the DNR, I mean, we don't have to have a complete start-to-finish
No.
plan. We have to show we're making progress and show that this is what our intent is, and I think that will,
And in the packet, I had included an email that I had sent to the DNR saying, you know, we will get what we have. We will continue to give you monthly updates on where we're at throughout the process. And they said, yep, that's great, we'll work with you.
okay.
Is that perfect? Yeah.
Did you have something final you wanted?
No, I was just saying, I was thinking, Lisa, is there any concern from you or your staff that you won't be able to make that deadline, or will you let the board know
You know, and I
if you
think
start
if
getting it?
by March 30th, we sent to the DNR saying we have engaged MSA. They're going to be helping us.
Yeah,
We're
that's gonna-
looking into grant opportunities. We're looking if we need additional testing done of the site. And they'll be able to give us an outline of things they think we need to be doing, and if we include that in the
And,
plan.
yeah, maybe MSA can give us a timeline on that stuff, so.
Okay. So on to correspondence. We had our focus with an explanation of understanding the state budget process and what's all involved with the budgeting process. From the Wisconsin taxpayer, we got some information on special education funding and how that works in Wisconsin, and some numbers related to state or federal versus local or state reimbursements and how that works. And that state and local tax burden that falls. Taxes take smallest share of income in decades. So that was noticed by the Taxpayer Alliance. Then we had a letter from Dane County, the Office of the County Executive, Joe Parisi, sent us a letter congratulating the Village of Cambridge on the Dane County Park and Ride Grant for that Cam Rock Glacial Drumlin Trail Connector Project. And I think Joe was actually here in the village and
At the distillery?
yeah, at the distillery, so. League of Municipalities, their 2019 Local Government 101 registration. They have published the dates on when those Local Government 101 sessions are available. So for anyone on the board that might be interested, that's always a good thing to do. And then we got a letter from Carol and Joe Sapienza. Sapienza. And they wanted to thank the Village and Public Works Department for plowing the sidewalks on Main Street. It's always a nice surprise to see that it has already been done by the time we get to our place to shovel. It makes snow blowing and shoveling the rest of our property that much easier. It helps the kids get to school safely and helps our business community by allowing customers to access our shops. Much appreciation to you and your staff. So thank you for that. That was very nice. Nice to be recognized there. All right, so any other correspondence? No. So meeting announcements, March 13th, the Library Board, March 19th, Water and Sewer Committee, March 26th, the Village Board, April 2nd is Election Day, April 8th is Planning Commission, and then April 9th is the Village Board again. Then April 10th would be the, library. And then questions, referrals to staff, or future agenda items. Mark?
I wanted to commend the, I am assuming it was the village staff that was cleaning the tree out of the Koshkonong Creek.
Yep.
It looks like they got a lot of it out, not the trunk, but at least all of the main trunk is still
They
there.
can wait for it to dry up now to try to get the trunk, or?
I'm sure
they are now,
They're,
because the process is going to start coming out of the ground.
I believe it was Christiana that came down and helped as well.
Oh, did they?
We had a couple big
Oh, wonderful.
trucks to pull it. and-
Okay, all right. But
great.
they talked about doing that when the ground was frozen, and they succeeded, so.
Yep.
It's got to be tough getting into the water with a chainsaw at this
Yeah.
time of the year. But,
Great. All right. Thank you, Mark. Any other questions, referrals to staff, or future agenda items?
Was there some correspondence we were supposed to sign, a thank you?
I
the last
don't
meeting?
have that done yet,
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
Um,
I just recall that from the last.
Yeah.
Lisa will work on that. Okay,
Mhm.
good.
All
All
the
right.
things came up.
Yeah. Indeed,
I can see
we had
that,
some
yeah.
research. All right, I will entertain item 13.
I make a motion to end the meeting of March 12th, 2019.
Second.